good evening. Whenever you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Hashem. One of the features of my teaching, my approach, maybe we could say my philosophy, is the insistence upon, not just the emphasis on, but the insistence upon you really assuming total ownership of your decision-making powers, because that's your superpower, especially within the tradition of Ifa. Meaning, Ifa is a tradition whereby, for example, let's look at the mechanics of Ifa. You go to see the Babalawo, you cast Ifa, and the Babalawo may recite 4 verses for you. Really, he's not going to dictate to you what pertains to you. He's going to give you a kind of a spectrum of diagnoses, if you will. And it's up to you, for example, to have the discernment to say, okay, this is the one that pertains to me. This is the story, or these are the couple of stories that really speak to my condition. And so there's a whole bunch of decision making that goes into that process just for you. You got to decide to think about it, and then you have to decide to tell the owl, hey, this is what's happening. This is the one that pertains to me. You have to open your stomach, as we said, right? Ifa has opened his stomach to you. Now you open your stomach to Ifa. That's a decision. And then once the message has been delivered, then you have to decide to make the sacrifice. And once the sacrifice is made, then you've got to decide after the fact to keep the observances or the taboos. And then in addition, you also have to make the decision to think about what the message was. You have to look for the opportunities. If I says don't eat chicken, well, you got to be asking, is there chicken in this? And you have to make the decision whether you're hungry or not, or you want to be polite, or you have to decide that you are not going to eat the chicken, or you are going to eat the chicken. So decision making is built into the process. There's no way you can even be a client who consults Ifa and get effective results on a consistent basis if you refuse to exercise your decision-making abilities. All right? So let's just start with that. The system and the logic requires decision-making. But then on top of that, this is something that I know in the long term. Ifa's going to tell you to do certain things, and sometimes you're going to defy the message. It's not going to be an accident. It won't be something inadvertent. Sometimes Ifa said do this or don't do that, and you are going to do it anyway. I know that that's the case, right? You know that that's the case. So then the question becomes, are you ready, willing, and able to accept the consequences and outcomes of your decisions? Whether they are decisions that create favorable results or they make unfavorable results. Can you take ownership of the choices that you have made? Are you familiar enough with what it's like? For example, you made a choice and it turned out to not be the best choice. It wasn't the most profitable choice. It wasn't the most progressive choice. You blundered. Well, do you have enough experience with blundering to be able to now recover, to be able to now improve upon the situation? Are you familiar enough with the process of succeeding, of excelling? Do you have enough familiarity with what it's like to make a sequence of decisions that are good for you, that are good for other people? Can you take ownership of your ability to make favorable, or what we would say typically, good decisions? Do you know what it's like? You see, that is like any other muscle or any other form of conditioning. You have to be, familiar with what it's like to make decisions. And so, because I know you're going to actively deviate, right? And this is something we don't want to talk about. It's not like I don't want to encourage you and I don't want to condone it. I don't want to say that it's justifiable. I'm just saying I know it's going to happen, and you know it's going to happen. And because of that, I insist that my students and my clients alike are constantly and habitually engaged in the decision-making process, that you're taking ownership of your decisions, that you're not externalizing your power, and you're not deferring to me, you're not deferring to Ifa, you're not playing the blame game, you're not transferring and displacing and deflecting and, placing blame on other people for things that are really the result of your decision making, okay? And not going to the other end of the spectrum where you either browbeat yourself and, over criticize yourself, or you're not in some kind of a delusional state where you're thinking that all of your decisions are enlightened and perfect and you never make mistakes. But just being real sober-minded about the fact that when you make choices, it creates outcomes. And sometimes the outcomes work in your favor, sometimes the outcomes don't work in your favor, but you've got to be ready, willing, and able to accept the results of your decision making. And it's a practice, it's a habit. Lots of people who are unfamiliar with the feeling of making a choice, for example, that turns out to be unfavorable, right? We don't know how to make mistakes. Let me simplify it. A lot of people don't know how to make mistakes. We take a mistake as a complete condemnation and an indication of total failure and inability on ourselves. And then we start to retreat and we get kind of gun shy and we don't want to make any more decisions because we're afraid of making mistakes. And you can't be afraid of making mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes. Okay? You're going to make mistakes. But what I want you to do is get comfortable and familiar with the process. It's like if you were a fighter, a boxer, and you have to know what it's like to be dazed, to get hit and be dizzy. You have to know what that feels like so that you can keep your legs beneath you and pivot and practice head movements so you don't get knocked out. So just because you got hit and you're dizzy doesn't mean that the fight is over. It just means now you need to do something differently so that you don't get completely knocked out. You don't make another mistake, right? And so that's part of why I'm insisting. Don't fall into the habit of externalizing your power. Don't fall into this thing of like every time something doesn't go my way, it's because of some supernatural cause. Every time something doesn't go my way, it's because I have some enemy who's obsessed with destroying me. Just because things didn't go my way doesn't mean that my destiny is doomed and bad. Just because things didn't go my way doesn't mean that the Orisha are fighting with me. It doesn't mean any of those things. Most of the time, when things aren't going your way, it's because you just simply didn't make the best choice. Most of the time, things aren't going your way because, they aren't going anybody's way. This is the nature of the beast. The thing that you chose to do has difficulty built into it. You take, for example, a map. You got a map. You have a total map of the city. The map tells you to turn left, go right, but a map doesn't tell you there's a hill, right? Map says turn left on Main Street, but as you go up Main Street, they don't tell you it's a super steep hill on the map. And you get there and you think, oh my God, this is so bad. They designed this city to destroy me. It's my enemies who want to see me fall. It's this and that who they're working against me. No, it's just that there's a hill. and that's something you didn't anticipate. And it's working against you. So the overwhelming majority of the time, my observation is that things are difficult because it's the nature of the game. You got to be able to keep rolling, right? But that's a habit of mind. That's a form of conditioning. And that's the part of the journey and the fulfillment of your destiny that is 100% on you. That's all in your court. Ifa can't do that for you. Orisha can't do that for you. Medicine can't do that for you. Ebo can't do that for you. That part of it is entirely in your hands, but you got to practice it. You got to get familiar with it. You have to condition yourself mentally, emotionally, physically to be able to adjust and continue to progress in spite of any form of unexpected adversity, difficulty, etc. So this message is super essential for everybody because we're all on the quest to fulfill our destiny, but it's particularly pointed towards those of you who are the leaders. I'm looking for people who are leaders, who are ready, willing, and able to go about the process of improving the world through positive influence. If you're one of those people, I want you to visit me at obafemio.com. I want you to visit me at orishalifestyle.com. I want you to get enrolled in my classes. I want you to take the plunge into exploring and activating and practicing and mastering these kinds of habits that are associated with helping you live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those who you are destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odabo.